Last episode, we talked about different things on K1s, on K0s. We looked at a real blinged out K0 in red. And the key was we talked about raising our game, getting better at what we do. And guess who walked in? Just as this happens, Tracy Schooler walks into my office.
I am so glad to see you. I just happened to catch you in here.
Yeah.
But am I interrupting? Are you okay?
No.
Okay.
No, but I'm going to put you to work. Is that okay? I know you probably came here.
Wow. Okay. Well, I really had golf in mind, and just to see if you were available to go this afternoon. Yeah. But sure, if you need some help in here or got some questions, I'd love to help.
I'm in.
That's
I want to play golf.
About. Okay.
And I'll buy a round.
Perfect.
If you'll do an interview with us.
It's a fair trade.
Okay.
Thank you, brother, as always.
All right. About 8 years ago, somebody found out I had a huge collection of motorcycles and they wanted to come see them, and they wanted to put some kind of an auction agreement together with me. And I just wasn't ready because I was looking online and seeing mini bikes, classic mini bikes, and I knew they were going up. But occasionally I would see this ad from a company called Lil Bikes. It's now JT Restorations. But when I saw that ad and I saw the bikes in that ad, I thought, there's no way anybody can make an old bike look like this. They were just incredible on a completely different level. I wasn't the only one impressed. In fact, the whole industry was. So when Hemmings Motor News was talking about the market going from $1,500 to $15,000 and what's going on, who was synonymous to that but my buddy Tracy Schooler. So when I started building bikes, I wore his phone out. And in fact, I've built a lot of bikes for a lot of my viewers. A lot of my watchers have built a lot of bikes. And there's never been a time that I've built a bike or that I've been involved in a build or looked at a build, overseen a build where I didn't say, man, that's not as good as Tracy would do it. And so, as I always say, I'm an enthusiast, a collector. We've got a big boy toy store here that just makes everybody feel like they're 12 years old. And we do a good job on bikes, but I would never say that we do a great job. There's a lot of people that are self-professed experts, but I can promise you this, they're fostered by this guy right there, because his product, when Meekum gets a Lil Bikes or JT Restorations bike in, when you see one advertised on Bring a Trailer and they say it's from Lil Bikes or JT Restorations, the comments start coming, and guess what? Add another $2,000. So follow the money, and it leads to this guy right here.
Well, Scott, again, you're too kind. But I tell you something that I learned early on, and I've not always been in the business. You know, for me, it started as I was a golf professional and didn't want to teach indoors here in Indiana. So in 2016, I did a bike, a Z50 actually, for a neighbor. That's how it all started. Yeah. And kept getting a little more involved with it. But I found that after it's like you said, you talk to this guy and everybody's an expert. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know, I always found the good in everybody. Yes. And try to take a little bit from this guy and a little bit from that guy, and I had a lot of great help along the way, and had a lot of people that was supportive, and that's what you and I try to do. Even today, I still field a lot of questions, and when you and I are out playing golf, we always talk mini bikes, right? Oh yeah. And we talk about the stories, about the phone calls we're still getting. Yes. And on Josh's behalf, who the new owner of JT Restorations is.
Great guy. I talked to him this morning.
I still field a lot of questions and answer a lot of emails for him, and they all lead back to the same thing. You know, I had a bike as a kid, but I don't have any, but I want one. Yes. You know. Yes. So, and what we're here today and just trying to, I was stopping by to see if you play golf, but if you want to do this is great. And I'm always willing to help and to try to answer some questions. But it seems like the industry has got a lot of people that's definitely trying to do it at home.
Yes.
So maybe today, if you wouldn't mind, and I'm sure you've got a plan, that maybe we point out a few things that would help the guy at home.
Do you think you can find any flaws in what we do here?
I doubt it. I really don't. I really don't, because I think it looks like it's a very nice shiny paint job, and it's shiny to me. But and understand when I'm going to pick on him a little bit here.
That's good.
But it's all in constructive criticism, okay?
Yes.
Because, and this is, I don't know until I would ask him the question. The first thing that sticks out to me, there's an aftermarket exhaust on there. And so, but that may be the reason, the difference in dollar value. The customer, he's built this for a customer, and he didn't want to spend the extra $300 for a genuine Honda. But when I look at that and I come down here, I'm going to pick on the things that stand out obvious to me, that I see a lot of people that restore bikes from home, and they, for the most part, they do a fabulous job. But the things that I notice is here we don't have the bracket that goes in what we call the support bracket. Okay, now on this particular, I did ask, and the reason being it sets a little bit shorter, so therefore the height is not the same as a standard Honda. So they do have to modify that, but yes, it will fit on there. And when I look over the bike as a whole, I can point out that I can see this is aftermarket as well, the headlight. I like the fact that they...
How do you know that, Tracy?
Yeah.
How can you tell that right off the bat?
Well, on a K1, this is going to be a separate ring. This is all infused together as one unit, okay? And on the K1, it is a separate ring, and you can adjust it just inside. On a K0, you'll see a screw in the outer ring. This screw is down here on this one. On the K0, the adjustment for your headlight is on this side, and you can see it's a two-piece unit.
Gotcha.
Always on a K1.
So you can tell just by simply looking.
Just by looking at it,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
And little things that I look for, and he's probably right, very difficult to live with because I am OCD. And when I look down the barrel here, I see that we put our horn and we put in a tie, which is a genuine Honda tie, but that doesn't go in this tie. This actual horn cable gets wrapped around what we call the throttle cable, right, 6 wraps. That's the way they did all of them. They wrapped it 6 times around, and that followed down to there and then peeled off. So there's subtle differences that I can see about the bike. But as far as the tail light brackets and everything in today's world, sometimes you got to have aftermarket parts to make them complete, because obviously Honda doesn't make seats anymore, right?
That's right.
I mean, so they don't make tail light brackets anymore. There's a lot of items they still make, but there's a lot of items that they don't make. One thing that I'm going to point out really good to you is that when I look down here on a lot of home people, I see that when they turn this, what we call the brake stay, this is always turned around backwards, and it's indented there and indented up here. That goes to the outside. Some people have this reversed and flipped to the inside.
And that one's done correctly.
That one is done correctly. And some of the subtle things that I pick out is I'll see some people paint their cloud silver. They'll paint their hubs. That was actually a brushed aluminum look. It wasn't a polished aluminum look. Now we polish them just because the look is a little better, but they were actually brushed aluminum with a clear coat back in the day.
So not cloud silver.
Not cloud silver.
How about that?
Right, not cloud silver.
So you've done some high-end builds, some bikes that went for competitive judging, and you would do those with the brushed finish because it's
do it with a
concourse
brush
judging.
finish, and just when you go down that road, or I call it go down that rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
I just feel like that you got to make sure that when we look at these, we want to make sure that these guys are in the right spot, they're wrapped correctly. And I hear the handlebars or the cables go outside the handlebars or inside the handlebars. Actually on a K0, if you'll see, this is pretty tight right there. They actually are going to go to the inside On my Z50s, I put those to the outside, and on my CT70s, I put them to the inside. And what I'm talking about here is the handlebars.
This is a K0. What do you like about that K0? What do you like as far as fit, finish? What comes to your mind that Derek really does a good job?
Really does a good job on what I call about the cover here. All this is an original Honda exhaust system. He's doing a good job with that. Also, another thing that I see is his painter is actually painting the end of this. If this gets scratched off after it's been restored, I still like to see that candy paint covered up with that, because that's just a point that if it isn't clear coated right, it's going to rust. So anyway, I see that's a good job there. I see you guys do a very good job up here with reconditioning your Speedos, bringing them back to zero, and if they need new graphics in the face, you're doing that as well. So that Speedo right there, whoever did it, is done a really good job there.
You know where that Speedo was done?
I don't.
KT Restoration.
Okay, so Josh does them for you today.
Josh did that Speedo for us.
There you go.
Yeah.
So when you look at everything as a whole, it's a really good job. It really is.
Yeah.
And so far as we've all been through it, but what I've noticed in this business, and not everyone, but you'll have a few people that are, I really call them kind of Debbie Downers, that, is really going to pick on something that at the end of the day, it doesn't make a huge difference. I mean, we're all learning, and I still learn today. I do. I get questions all the time, about, how the big one that I try to field is how do you know if has this been repainted? The paint's good, or how do you know that I have a Survivor bike?
Great question.
I get that.
There's a few Survivors in here. You want to show them real quick?
Right. Yeah, I can pick one out for you.
Can we do that? Nathan, is that all right to come with us over here?
When I let him slide by.
Yeah.
And then
actually, is that the Survivor right there?
It is a Survivor, and always when you look at this, you'll see where the serial number is stamped in the side of the frame. That will have rust or a discoloration or wax. Somebody waxed it maybe in 1981 or 82 or 94, but you'll see the white or the rust. The frames were painted and then stamped with numbers. So you can always tell that if it's been repainted or not. That's that's your first indication, is to go to that serial number and see if it has rust or old wax in it.
So in other words, when we restore a bike today, we're going to paint the chassis. That chassis is going to be painted entirely, and we're not going to re-stamp the number.
Right.
So it's going to, you can tell
that
it's not a Survivor, right?
It's not a Survivor. It's been repainted.
Yeah, because they're stamped afterwards when they were built.
Right, correct.
And none of us, by the way, were in Japan. Nobody watching was in Japan.
No.
We weren't in Japan.
No.
And none of us know everything that was done. There are some people that are professed experts, and I'm sure that they know more than most. But I think one of the things that Tracy's pointing out here that is fantastic, and I say this a lot, have grace for each other. Find something good about the other guy's bike. I think that's a great idea.
Always,
that's one of the reasons
always.
we're so good.
Right.
Friends.
Well, and I mean, it's just that, and you've helped me in so many different ways, and with your years of purchasing several barn finds, I'm amazed on how many barn finds that you have,
Yeah.
And it's just always good to help each other out, and don't be critical. I mean, we're all here to learn, and that's how I was very thankful for the people that I leaned on 10, 12 years ago, is they were able to help me out and so forth.
Well, it's been a fantastic episode of Mini Bike Minute. What a bonus we had this week. I hope I can get Tracy. I hope you'll come back for another
one. Oh, absolutely.
I think it's a lot of fun when you run into someone that you lift up as really an icon in this industry, and we can get together and look at bikes together and talk about things we love, things we want to get better at, and raising your game is kind of how we started this episode out. I always have one more thing to say. You know, when I met Tracy several years ago, we had lunch together, and the first thing we did when we had lunch is we had prayer. You know, I think it's important. Our generation, you know, we're expiring. We're in the October of our life. Some of us don't realize that we might be December 31st. But the reality is, you know, we're on the expiration side of life,
Right.
and you know, the people that you choose to be friends with in this life, isn't it funny how you become more like them, whether it's husbands and wives or best buddies? And I think that the fellowship that Tracy and I have together,
I agree.
yeah, we talk about bikes, but what do we talk about mostly?
Oh, we talk about a faith,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And how your faith not only just makes you feel very appreciative, but it makes you feel like you're making your contribution to life and help others along the way. Because trust me, as we go, both of us go through our daily lives, we struggle. Absolutely. It's not all glitz and glamour, right?
No.
And we've both had our struggles in the mini bike world and in faith, and you wonder sometimes, is he really listening? You know, and
Yeah.
and that's why I was mentioning you the other day on the golf course. I said, is it just me, or do you find that sometimes in prayer you need to be very specific in prayer?
Yeah.
To pray for exactly what you want. And I think that's important.
I think the glory of God is most found in the detailed answered prayers of our lives. And we pray so generally a lot of times, God help me, or this or that. Well, how? He's
Right.
our Father.
Be specific.
Yeah.
We were talking
You know,
about that.
yeah. We
Yeah.
just
And,
learned we both have the same fatty tumor.
Same
Look at this.
fatty
Would you look
tumor
at
on the same
same
spot,
one.
right?
that? So,
But more importantly was Scott and I had a little wager. It wasn't much, okay? I mean, we had a little wager coming up on the 18, right? And I didn't let him know it, but we wagered on the drive, okay? And there was an out of bounds to the right, okay? And I just thought I would set him up, because sometimes if he comes over the top, you know, me being the golf instructor that I am, I noticed on the last 17 holes, he'd come over the top and it'd slice out of bounds. So I thought I had him here. So I said, hey, Scott, I said, why don't we just wager something small? Let's just do lunch. How about that? Oh, yeah, he immediately piped right up, and he wanted part of that. So he gets up to the tee, and I'm going to be honest with you, I kind of said a little prayer that he'd hit it out of bounds. Now, I was being very specific, okay? Well, it backfired. He piped one 275 right down the middle, okay? So needless to say, I bought lunch. I'll never forget that.
That was great.
But I never was going to tell you that I kind of said a little prayer. It was under my breath. I mean, you
Right.
didn't hear it, right?
Well, I'll tell you this is where I'll close. You know, no, I didn't. But I did hear the first one. So I've never played golf with a guy before that before we teed off on the first hole, it wasn't my idea. He said, hey, would you mind if we prayed first? And you know, he prayed that the glory of God would be found in our lives, that we would have fun and enjoy Him for 18
Right.
holes. And we sure did.
We
You'll
sure
play
did.
tomorrow?
2 o'clock, if that's
All
okay.
right, you're on.
I love it.
Well, thank you for watching Mini Bike Minute. It's been great time for us here, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Next week, we're going to talk about the K1 again. We're going to come back to this, and we're going to look at a few others that are like this that we've just restored. It's been fantastic. I'm honored to have you. Check out classicminibikes.com. This has been a great episode. Thanks, Tracy.